Hello and welcome to this edition of My Favorite Things. Today I'm in a very special location and I'm in the middle of a jungle in Africa. I recently took a trip to Togo, West Africa to help some people that are in my church and who are missionaries. I'm really excited today to share to you about a very special piece of equipment that I rented from LensProToGo recently, and that is this lens.
These are a few of my favorite things.
On today's episode of My Favorite Things, I want to share with you a lens review from Sony's 70-200mm G-Master 2.8 that I rented recently from LensProToGo. I took a trip recently to Togo, West Africa to document some people and the work they're doing here in Africa. And I wanted something special. I normally shoot all of my footage on the G-Master 16-35. Love the lens, it's super sharp, but it's very, very wide. Even with Sony's ability to punch into Super 35 mode and their clear optical zoom, I can get a little bit more reach out of the Sony lens, but I wanted something specific, and I specifically wanted more of a portrait type lens. So enter the Sony G-Master 70-200. Now this is a very expensive lens. It retails right now for right around $2,500. I suggested to you a couple months ago, before you ever try to actually buy a piece of equipment, especially a very expensive piece of equipment, that you first rent the piece of equipment. For only about less than 10% of the overall retail cost of this lens, I rented this lens from the great people at LensProToGo in Massachusetts. I shot them an email before I left for my trip saying, hey, this is what I want to do, this is kind of the need, and they shot me back some information about the type of lens that I might consider trying, and lo and behold, that's where I got this lens. So I can't recommend LensProToGo enough. I've used them multiple times in the past before. They are great people, and they have a fantastic selection of equipment to choose from. Now, in traditional fashion of My Favorite Things, I want to review a couple of awesome features about this product and potentially a few of the critiques I have. So feature number one I want to point out is its reach. So it is a 70-200 lens and it is a 2.8 lens. So the reach on this lens goes pretty far. So 70-200 is about what you get with a regular focal length. If you use the Super 35 crop mode on the Sony, you probably get more closer to like 100 to maybe 250 range out of this specific lens. It's beautiful, it's great. I had a couple different times where it would have been a little awkward if I was too close to my subject and shooting them. So with the reach of this lens, I could stay a little bit of distance away from my subject and still punch in and get awesome, great footage, or even pictures of the thing that I was trying to shoot. The second feature I want to talk about is the fact that it is a 2.8 lens. Sony makes an f4 lens as well that is a little bit less depth of field. For specific low light conditions, I love the 2.8 on this lens. Now, Sony cameras are known for being great in low light situations. There was a lot of times when I could even shoot in 2500, 3200, 6400 ISO and not get a lot of noise out of the image. But I love the ability to still punch in and actually open this guy up wide enough to be a 2.8 and get some really great quality bokeh out of the image. The third thing, a lot of people talk about when it comes to this length, this focal length of a lens, is the compression. And what do you mean by that? I'll throw some images up for you to reference, but when you're at 200 on this lens, it's just an amazing buttery type background that I've never even seen out of a lens before. You kind of get a little bit of a circular pattern out of the bokeh, but honestly, the background just disappears. You can be maybe 10 to 15 feet away from a subject, or even further than that, maybe 30 to 40 feet away from a subject, go all the way to the end of the lens, and man, it's truly amazing what you can get out of this. I love the fact that it just knocks everything out of the background, gives you a nice bokeh blur, but keeps the subject completely super sharp. The next feature I want to talk to you about is the fact that this has Optical SteadyShot built into the lens. Now, why is that important? Currently, my travel tripod that I use is a Manfrotto B-Free Advanced. It's a lightweight carbon fiber tripod, but it is lightweight, meaning it can't hold quite as much weight as my normal tripod. And if you put this lens on the tripod mount, it does have a tendency to kind of weigh down at the very front. If you go handheld with this lens, honestly, it's a little bit heavy, and you put on the lens onto your camera, and when you're shooting, if you don't have the Optical SteadyShot on, you're going to introduce some vibration into the shutter, and it will create not quite as sharp an image. But turning that feature on, I was able to get great clear images that were super tack sharp and came out awesome. Now, do I have any critiques of this lens? I'll critique two things. So the first thing is its price. It's not cheap. It is a G Master series. It's a true G Master, not just the G line, it's a G Master. And like I said, it retails for over 2,500 bucks. If you're gonna consider buying this lens to make it a permanent part of your kit, you're gonna have to fork out quite a bit of money up front and make sure that this is truly gonna be beneficial for you in the long run. The second critique I wanna share with you guys is its weight. I will post on the screen, because I don't have it memorized right now, the actual weight of this exact lens right now. But if you're used to a Sony system, you're used to potentially shooting on something a little bit lighter weight because you can have smaller lenses. This is not the case. This is a very big lens. It's almost 12 inches in length and almost about 4 inches in overall diameter. You can see if I open it up there, it gets pretty big. So if you're considered about weight and you're trying to stay with a little more lightweight kit, I'd honestly probably get the F4 version of this because it's much smaller, much more compact, and not going to be quite as much weight when you travel. So overall, what would I say about this lens? I love the lens. I'm so thankful that I got an opportunity to shoot on it. It was great for video specifically because I had the ability to go at 70 or even 200. And just especially when doing interviews, it's nice to be able to even change frame a little bit during the interview, in between cuts, so I could punch in if I needed to get a different feel, or I could get a wider shot if I wanted to. I would recommend this lens for anybody that can afford it and that is considering the fact that it is a little bit heavier lens. So that's it for today's My Favorite Things episode. Thanks so much for tuning in this special location here in Togo, West Africa. I'll see you next time.